Here we go. So, yeah, learning. Thank you very much for mentioning lifelong learning. I believe quite a lot in that. And today we will talk about learning and we will talk about technology. So, first of all, I want to know from you what type of technology person you are. So, which kind of phone do you prefer? Maybe what do you have at home? Okay? This is very much what we will talk about now. We'll make a little test first. Do you like this car? Just give me a hand who likes this car. Oh, this is the majority. So, who really likes this modern car? I mean, that's an interesting question because it's before the Apero. It's not that I had a bottle of white wine before. So I'm asking you the question, so why modern car? Is there anybody who has an idea why modern car? Well, I'll give you a hint. Actually, have you seen that? Probably you already did. So now look here. Oops, looks like there's something missing. Now we'll look more in detail and look at the engine, the so-called. This looks very different from what we normally know. And now look here at the dashboard. Very different from a car from the 60s. So obviously, this is modern and not modern. Something in between. What do you think now? You still like it? You say, that's fantastic? Or is it, no, it's not real. It's not the real stuff. And this is about how you perceive technology as something that is, well, we will see more in detail. What I will talk to you today, those are the main pillars, and as it was said, my profession is about learning. I work with managers, leadership development, and I work with students. So we talk about learning technology. I'll give another example. Let's stick with the cars. But what I said before is, I don't know what your perception is in the companies you're working in, or organizations you're working in. People sometimes love technology, so hopefully here at Oracle they are more technology focused. Others say, don't like it too much, it makes me afraid. So it's a kind of green and red thing. It's not only us in HR, but it is all the people we are working with. It's something we have to take into account. Let's have a closer look on learning. Basically, learning could be seen as well. Those cars, this approach, this is more like the early 20th century or 21st century. What is this? So if you're learning, we talk about corporate learning here. Huh? If your learning follows the old approach, how does it look like? Have you experienced that already? I guess so. I'm quite sure. So typically, you have very standard content. You have a booklet, you know exactly what is in. Since years, it's the same content. Then you have a wonderful hotel. It's always good, expensive, 4-star, 5-star, whatever it is. And you have good food for sure. And what's missing? Something extremely important on that? Yes, you have some team building. And the next morning is a tough morning. So, and in addition to that, at the end of the day, you have almost no business impact. Low to nothing. Now with technology, we have different opportunities. Because when you have training like this, your phone will very much look like that you have at home, or that you have in your offices. Okay? So, now think about what kind of learning projects we are meeting today in organization. There's still, and I worked since 20 years in this industry, there's still quite a lot of those here, old thought model, very basic stuff. There is then something in between, which is I like the Jaguar. So beautiful looking Jaguar, but still it is somehow like, let's add some let's take the old car and let's get some e-learning on a platform that nobody's doing, and webinars where nobody understands, and play games while somebody's talking. Or you have a more modern approach where things are very much integrated. And this is maybe worth the thought. Another thing that is important is we have to check the time from time to time. My telephone's disconnecting. I still have time, that's good. So, when we talk about technology and learning, there is a lot about process, there's about methodology, and there's about a mix. So we start now with the methodology, which is typically like e-learning or kind of virtual games and whatever. That's a very interesting topic, indeed, but we will not talk about it today. Okay? We will have another focus today. And this is about, it's about process. How technology can be used in the learning process to make the learning stick, to make it more successful. And we don't talk about training, we talk about learning, which is very different. So, but if we do so, we have to be, and thank you very much, you mentioned 2 or 3 keywords that are definitely important. We have to talk about a few things. When we talk about the learning process and what I say a learning journey, we have to talk about change. And when we say change, what we pops up immediately? We're somehow afraid. Behavioral change. This is something the others have to adapt, not us. Or me not, but the others. It's always better. So my question is now, do you like change? Personally? Honestly? I mean, there's always a politically correct answer on that. But there was serious stuff done. There has been a broad intercultural international study, meta study brought out. There's only one type of population who likes change. You know which one it was? Yes. 2 or 3 times a day. They love it. All the others, afraid. So that's something we have to face, actually. This is something we have to deal with when we organize learning. Because it is all in the same logic of understanding and then applying repetitively new behavior. So at the end of the day, a successful learning project is nothing else than a successful change project. And that's why we are applying the same logic of what is used in modern change projects. So that you have spent a lot of time on preparation, the startup phase, and only start when you're ready to go. And then you have the implementation phase, but then you have the anchoring phase. Just did it once. I mean, just think about when you had your driving lessons and then you got the paper and they said, okay, now you're a good driver. It took me years to become a good driver, if you can even say that I'm a good driver. So you need practice, 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 okay? So let's have a closer look on learning while earning. What is the concept behind? Some of you may know, especially some experts in L&D development. There is some hands coming up. There's a classical approach, not that classical, but 10-20-70. It's basically saying that how do you invest resource? Resource is not only money, but it's as well time. In 3 major steps, and there's only 10% that is spent in learning in itself. There's about 20% that has to be spent in interaction with peers, with managers, and so on. And then, application, 70% has to be application. So, you can challenge it if it's 70 or 80 or 60, but this is very much the principle. Now, it is very much what we have here. We have the 2 phases of starting things, implementing, but then anchoring. So the success of the learning, of the training, of the project can only be measured after 6 or 12 months, and not just of a happiness sheet. Food was very good. So, what have you experienced personally in your organization or in your former professional life? What is typically happening is organizations are spending their money and their resources and their energy like that, completely the wrong way, and the other way around. And they even focus on it has to be good trainer, it has to be good training, it has to be content and whatever. That's why I say it is interesting to focus technology on the learning process, to help people really to implement this learning, because it's completely the wrong way. So, now how can we combine both? I just gave you some thoughts about that, and oops, can't really see the next slide coming in here, but this was already said before. Our work environment is dramatically changing. It's about new jobs popping up or other jobs disappearing quite quickly. So when we talk about competencies, those are all the C competencies, basically speaking. They are all those that has to be applied. Not only learned, but has to be applied. I can learn through design thinking a different way to approach problems, but it has to be repeated on different ways. The question is, does your learning organization allows your people to anchor those? This is knocking at the door. We have said it a few years ago, and I say it's 2020. It's 4 months. Are we focusing on the right content? Are we focusing on the right processes to develop those? The solution, the learning while learning, is, in my eyes, if an organization is capable to organize something really integrated. Integrated in the way of, it's a deep learning, people are collaborating. Just give you some, and I zap a little more quickly about it, and you can read it. It's an idea where people are completely physically disconnected. They're using all the technology they have. Could be cloud technology, could be interactions, could be missions. And it's a process. It's not like after 1 or 2 weeks or 2 modules it's over, but it's guided. And the role of the professionals, either people like me or people like you who are internal coaches or process owners, completely different. Because it's not just done after 2 weeks, but it can take 12 years, and then you have to check back with business again. Because this is already happening now. Everything I've been showing you before was something that is where the technology is there. And as you said, at EPFL, when I see what new development, what new technology is there on the market, it's just incredible. And even though if innovation comes from private sector, there's so many large organizations and companies not investing enough in the learning, which then becomes a very critical factor. So this is, for instance, just one example without going into details, where you have a very integrated learning approach. You start with relevant learning objectives. The difference between classical learning objective and a relevant one is just that it's linked to business objectives. And not just because we shall know that. Why? What does the organization has to fulfill, or what are the general strategic objectives of the organization? So starting on that, you have involvement of management on all levels. You will have an ongoing process. You have a platform, a technology platform allowing an exchange, like chat rooms, like finding documentations, having tutoring, having coaching, having distance when it's needed. And people can exit, and not only when they're. It's good to have like once a week a little element of exchange within groups, but as well that you find content when you need it at that moment. So that's a process which is going through 6 to 12 to 18 months, depending on the intensity and on the project. There's something else which is important to be mentioned. I don't know if you work with an LMS. Please say hasta la vista to these LMS. Most of the LMSs are based on, it's a good admin tool to send out invitations and to make boxes, tipping, pick, 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 done, done, done. This is not the way you can foster and accelerate learning in your organization. if you have a system, and there comes technology again, this is something where you have a platform where all the learners and the sponsors and the coaches, internal, external coaches, will on a regular basis interact. This is what such a system in my eyes shall be capable to do. You can have a tracking, you can measure all kind of evaluations of saying what is the impact and not only what is the happiness, and it's very much about the mindset and the focus on transfer. That's why it is not just for the population that is trained or in a learning process, but the business owners, and that's why the relevant learning objectives are so important. So, to finish on that, you maybe ask, yeah, well, it's interesting, but is it really already existing? And yes, it is. So I will not go in details, but typically in France, we see that people are willing to learn, but they don't have enough opportunity. Many companies are saying we don't have enough money. And there's, for instance, one company who said we create little learning bits of 2, 3, or 6 minutes because people are getting more and more mobile. So e-learning is becoming m-learning, and you want to have it at that moment when you need it. And it's really based on a concrete example. I have an annual appraisal. How do I do that? Or more background thinking and so on. Or you can see from with pride. There's one organization who set up a system which I like very much. Is by saying a positive impulse. Just see the flow of this process of creating team spirit combined with positive competition and a purpose. And this is working as well extremely well. Last word about the virtual reality and all this technology. Keep the human and think about what's going on around you. I love this little photo where they just see in virtual reality something, I don't know what, and they don't even realize that this young student is walking through the room in Barcelona at that time. So, this is what I wanted to share with you, and I'm really looking forward for all kind of discussions we will have later on in half an hour from now. Thank you very much.